Man, I'm. It's just so unfortunate for a game to end like that. And don't get me wrong, the Packers did a lot to lose this game, and we're gonna dive down into it in this video for sure because we got a lot to rant about, or at least I do, and I need to get it off my chest. But and you can watch back at all my post game reactions, and one thing I rarely ever do is complain about some referees, but it was really bad out there. Like, it was really, really bad. And did the referees win the Lions the game? No, they didn't. The Packers lost this game. The Lions won. Congratulations. See you guys in the playoffs. But there was some very, very questionable calls. I mean, I wrote some down, and I'm definitely missing a lot of them because there were a lot. I mean, the offensive pass interference on Christian Watson late in this game, something that the Lions ran on the very next drive when Isaiah McDuffie got Jahmyr Gibbs out of bounds. Sam Laporta literally went up and blocked Isaiah McDuffie from going to cover Gibbs in the flat. I mean, it's ridiculous considering it was an OPI on Watson. He tried to get out of Kirby's way, and Kirby just ran into him. But sure, OPI on Watson, whatever. Early in the game, there's a defensive pass interference on Nixon doing the same exact thing Kirby Joseph did, trying to get through a pick play, but okay. There's Zadarius Smith basically forearming Jordan Love in the face. Okay, fine, whatever. There's Dan Skipper, a 6'8 lineman, 300 pounds, somewhere around that, flopping from Quay Walker, barely breathing on him. Okay. There's holding on Keyshawn Nixon on an A-gap blitz on 3rd and goal that you guys threw a touchdown to Tim Patrick. Clear as day holding. He had a free rush right to Jared Goff and got held. There's the St. Brown hands to the face on Nixon that the broadcast team highlighted and gave him his flowers for it, even though he ripped Xavier McKinney's helmet off. I mean, it's not just one or two things. Like, I can get over one or two things, but I just wanted to talk about that first to get it off my chest. And I already know it's going to be Lions fans down in the comments saying, oh, cry more about the refs. If this happened to you guys, you'd be doing the same exact thing. Your entire stadium boos every single penalty thrown against you guys, even if it's a legit one. So I don't want to hear it. If you were in the same position, we can all agree that the refs have been very bad this year. If you don't agree in this game or you're just too blind to see it, you can at least agree that the refs have been very inconsistent and not good this year. All right, so now into the actual game, the breakdown of the game. We talked about the refs, got it out of the way. Done with that. I mean, man, it was a rough performance by this Packers defense, a rough performance by this team as a whole in the first half for sure. You can't start out games like that in the first half and expect to win football games. There's a lot good in this game for the Packers. Specifically, their run defense looked good. Their second half offense looked pretty good. But there was a lot wrong. I mean, when you entered this game and you saw how banged up the Lions were on that defensive line, no DJ Reader, no Levi and Wuzuriki. Malcolm Rodriguez put on IR last week. They lost Aleem McNeil midway through this game with a head injury. I mean, you would fully expect the Packers to run the ball. And they did. I mean, Josh Jacobs, 18 carries. I still think that's too little, but it's because he only averaged 3.7 yards per carry, 66 yards, 3 touchdowns. If the Packers somewhat at least blocked half decently for Josh Jacobs, he probably would have like 200 yards, but they didn't. And credit to the Lions defensive linemen, who are all like third stringers at this point, are now starting. They had a hell of a game. A couple of those guys, never seen them play before, and they had a hell of a game. But there were so many situations that you could just tell that the Lions were selling out for the run. Like every 1st and 10, they were loading up the box. They were having Brian Branch creep up pre-snap and instantly run towards the running back off the snap of the ball. You got to run some play action. Take a page out of the Lions book and do what they do excellently, which is set up play action. And the Lions didn't even run the ball well, so you can't be like, oh, you have to run the ball well to set up play action. No, you just have to commit to the run, and that sets up play action, right? The Lions did an excellent job at that, and it killed the Packers. We'll talk about it when we go over the defense. But Jordan Love was a second leading rusher for the Packers, 4 for 23. Nice to see him get some yards there. As for receiving, Christian Watson, 4 for 114, had that awful fumble in the first half. I mean, just an absolute like gut punch, right? I mean, that changed the game. Like, Packers might have gone down and scored there. Wicks, 4 for 49. Nice to see him get more involved. Hopefully getting rid of that drop issue. It seems like it's trending that way. Tucker Kraft, nice to see him get 3 for 41 and a touchdown. That throw to Kraft was an absolute laser by Jordan Love. But the one thing that sticks out here 0 receptions, 0 yards, and 0 runs for that matter for Jayden Reed. That's just not okay. Like you could sit here and go, oh, we got locked up all game, he's double covered. But you gotta have a game plan to get the ball into Jayden Reed's hands, especially considering he had like 114 yards against this defense in week 9, and considering the Lions are like 3rd worst against slot receivers. Like, how do you not have a slight bit of a game plan here to at least just get the ball in Jayden Reed's hands? 0 receptions on 1 target is just not okay from a game plan standpoint, from this Packers offense standpoint. It's probably why they were so stagnant in the first half. I mean, you're not getting the ball in some of your playmakers' hands like Jayden Reed. I mean, Jordan Love had 32 passing yards in the first half. That's awful. Like, it's absolutely awful. And I'll say this as well. Love only got sacked once, and it was early in this game. I think the first play of the game, actually, was by Zadarius Smith, and Love just held the ball too long. But this was definitely the worst performance by this offensive line all year. It was very bad in the first half. It got better in the second half, and Love did a better job navigating the pocket, stepping up when he needed to, escaping sacks and whatnot. But the first half pass blocking, I mean, I saw Zach Tom get walked back like 3 times. He was on ice skates. The run blocking wasn't great. There's a few good plays where, Sean Ryan's blocking guys into the end zone. Josh Myers pancaked a couple guys. Outside of that, the Lions, in terms of Packers offense versus Lions defense, they won the trenches with a bunch of guys that had like 3 snaps coming into this game. Some had none, absolutely none. And they won the line of scrimmage. They won the trenches. And that's part of the reason why the Packers lost tonight. The Packers finally got it going in the start of the second half. They had 2 touchdowns in, I think, 3 minutes and 45 seconds, thanks to a Keyshawn Nixon interception. We'll get into it. Finally got things going there, but there's multiple times later in that game that just couldn't get anything going. Just multiple 3rd and longs, multiple interesting play calls, and they did match the Lions like every time. Like the lead changed, like who was leading changed so many times in this game. It just so happened the Lions ended up with the ball last because they went for it so many times on 4th down and converted. Like when you look at the overall stats from this game, I mean, the Lions absolutely own time of possession, which is something I was saying, hey, the Packers need to dictate the time of possession, dictate this game to win it, and it wasn't even close. The Lions had 36 minutes, over 36 minutes. The Packers had under 24 minutes. The Lions had more total yards, 391, because they ran like 30 more plays. Literally, the Lions had 76 total plays, and the Packers had 45. Like, if you let the Lions dictate the game like that and just control it and long, extended drives, tiring out your defense, they're going to win, and they did. Passing yards, the Lions, had more, 280 to 199. Rushing yards, they had more, even though the Packers did really well against the run in this game, better than I thought they would, 111 to 99. They had 10 more first downs, 27 to 17. Same amount of turnovers. We had that Watson fumbled the Goff interception, and same amount of sacks. We got 1 early with Gary, and that was it. And they got 1 early with Z, and that was it. So as for the Packers defense, I mean, it was just so frustrating and embarrassing because when we watched last week's game and we got a massive win against Miami, and a lot of people will be like, oh, we crushed them. But what was the main thing that the Dolphins got going in that game? It was not only throwing off a play action, but in breaking routes behind the linebackers and under the safeties. Does Jeff Hafley really think that the Lions didn't watch tape this week? Because that's exactly what they did to us. And every time they needed a crucial play, that's what they did. And the Packers were in the same exact defenses as last week. I'm sick and tired of the soft defense. Hopefully our front 4 can get home, because they're not. They're not getting home because they're getting stonewalled every play. So you got to send some exotic pressures. Like, even if you're down Jair, you're down Evan Williams, right? Like, still, if they're going to get it anyways and you're just letting the middle of the field wide open because you can't get any pressure off a play action and Jared Goff could light a campfire back there, at least try, send some pressures. And the problem is, Ben Johnson called such a great game is when the Packers did send pressures, screenplay. Every time. I mean, I think Goff probably went 10 for 10 on screens for like 170 yards. Like, I can't wait to look at the PFF tomorrow, because I honestly think they didn't like gain less than 10 yards on any given screenplay. And when it mattered most, his screenplays killed us. And the Packers continue to not be able to defend the screen. Not only that, not able to run the screen on offense. When you have Jahmyr Gibbs in open space against someone like Colby Wooden, like, you're cooked. Like, there's no way you're stopping that. And speaking of not stopping Jahmyr Gibbs, not saying any linebacker could stop him on a Texas route from the goal line if it's drawn up correctly, because maybe there's one and it might be Fred Warner, maybe. But, I mean, just to trot Isaiah McDuffie to man up Gibbs out there is wild. It's 4th and goal from like the 2.5-yard line. So they come out in shotgun and Gibbs is out there. So you're probably thinking, hey, this is most likely a pass here. You have Isaiah McDuffie manned on Gibbs if it's a pass. Why? Put a safety. Take Isaiah McDuffie off the field in that situation. And I know hindsight's 20/20, and if they ran the ball, you'd be like, why are they so light? You need your run stopping linebackers out there. And the Lions did an excellent job just putting the Packers in a position that was bad, that it was a mismatch, and it clearly worked. I mean, that's just one of the 4th downs. The Lions were 4 for 5 against the Packers on a 4th down. I mean, even on that last drive, for them to go for it there, I don't think there's a single team in the NFL that would go for it in that situation. Outside of that, they only got stopped on 4th down once, going for it on their own 31, which was great to see. Like, finally, you paid the price, but did they? No, because they won the game with it anyways. Outside of that, the Lions have scored on 4th and goal 4 times against the Packers this season in 2 games, 2 each. I mean, that's crazy. You got to get off the field to win football games. The other 4th and goal, we have, Eric Wilson late coming onto the field, not getting set. And you might be going, oh, well, the Lions just went up tempo. And that's why, no, the game clock or the play clock was at like 8 seconds. They weren't even going up tempo. They just broke the huddle quickly, right? You got to get set. And if you're going to waste a timeout in the 3rd quarter, like they did on 3rd and 7, which, mind you, still ended in a punt, you got to use it on that. It's a 4th and goal. Your defense clearly is scrambling to get set, to go through assignments. Hey, I'm going to cover this guy in this flat, and you got to come over top. I got under, you got over, whatever. It wasn't set up, and it was an easy, quick, stick route to Tim Patrick for a touchdown. It's like, if you're going to waste a timeout, and I wouldn't even consider that wasting, but the other one was, use it there. Some positives for this defense, because, man, there's not a lot. Keyshawn Nixon, phenomenal game yet again, and I cannot stand to keep seeing people saying he's a problem, because he's the only guy in that entire cornerback room that's even making a single play. Eric Stokes cooked all game. I mean, why is he still in the field? I would literally rather see Robert Rochelle at this point. Literally. At this point, I would rather see Robert Rochelle. You elevated Kalen King. Get him on the field, right? There's too much confidence in Eric Stokes, and clearly that was evident considering they didn't address cornerback in this draft in terms of outside guys until the 7th round, and Kalen King. Got to get Stokes off the field. And it would be much easier if Jair was available. Valentine didn't have a wonderful game, but he's better than Stokes, but that's not a high bar. But I can't keep seeing the hate for Nixon. It's the only guy making plays. Getting an interception here. He ended the game with like 10 tackles for a cornerback. He has great effort, high motor. This guy is 120% the entire time, and he's right now our best outside cornerback, honestly. He really is. Even when Jair's on the field, I personally think Nixon's played better than him. He's made more plays than Jair, and he's available. He's available every single game, where Jair is available like 40% of the time. So Nixon had a great game. I thought Kenny Clark had his best game of the year, without a doubt. I think he had like 10 tackles or something of that sort as well. Let me actually look real quick. Kenny Clark had 8 tackles, 5 solo, 1 for loss. He had high motor all game. He was flying around. I mean, if it was a run 5 yards down the field, Kenny Clark was right there to finish up the tackle. So it was great to see that effort from Kenny Clark. It was an up and down game for Quay Walker. He's been playing a lot better recently, and he was definitely our best linebacker out there. But there were some poor plays as well. I thought Colby Wooden made some really nice plays, and overall this defensive line did very well against a very good offensive line, albeit without Taylor Decker in this game, and Dan Skipper's out there flopping all over the place. But the defensive line did very well, and previous to this game, they only allowed 2.8 per carry to Christian McCaffrey, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, and they only allowed 3.3 in this game. And I would not believe that was the case pre-game. I would not think that the Packers would hold the line to 3.3 yards per carry. And if you just showed me the rushing stats, I'd be like, oh, the Packers won the game. Montgomery, 14 for 51, 3.6 average. Gibbs, 15 for 43, 2.9 average. St. Brown had a carry on that weird, like, wing tee type of play. Jared Goff, 4 for 7, 1.8. So they rushed 34 times, 111 yards, 3.3 average. Like, the Packers did very well against the run. And the last 3 weeks, they're one of the best rush defenses in the NFL, which is odd to talk about, because usually it's the flip side. It's like, okay, we're covering well, our run defense getting gashed over and over and over again. It's the absolute opposite right now. We can't cover anything. I mean, every third down, they're going to have a receiver wide open over the middle. Like, it just keeps happening. And it's like crazy that we keep trotting out the same scheme on defense, just kind of sitting in the soft zone. Like, whatever happened to Jeff Hafley being aggressive? Whatever happened to Jeff Hafley playing more man? And I'm sure the counter argument is, well, he doesn't have his guys. He doesn't have Jair out there. But you gotta work with what you got. And you can't just sit back in a soft zone against a team that picks apart zones and runs play action and runs, in-breaking concepts very well, just like the Dolphins did against your defense last week. It was so frustrating to watch. But yeah, the Lions, did everything they needed to win this game at the end. Goff finished the game with 13 straight. He didn't really make a mistake to end this game, and that's why they won. The Packers ended up having to kick a field goal off of a bogus offensive pass interference call on Watson, which should have been a touchdown to Jacobs, his fourth on the night, let's be completely honest. And the Lions would have had to score to win the game, and maybe they would have. Maybe they would have still went down and scored and won the game, but to have it come down to that is still very frustrating. But yeah, just wanted to talk about this game, get those thoughts off my chest. The Packers have bigger issues than just losing tonight to Detroit. They're still a 9-4 football team. They're gonna be in the playoffs, and I hope we play them again. But the Packers have bigger problems than just losing this game. I mean, they had a lot of guys leave with injuries. Lucas Van Ness left with a thumb injury, probably a broken thumb. Maybe he'll play through it. Evan Williams left with a concussion. And shout out Zane Anderson. I mean, I did not expect him to make plays, and he did. He made like a 3rd and goal stop on David Montgomery, which is wild. So shout out Zane. Still crazy through all of that. We didn't see any Katana Oladapo, even though he's active. Sean Ryan left the game but came back. I don't know what that injury was, but Kadeem Telford did look good in his absence. And then also Javon Bullard got carted to the locker room with an ankle injury. So great, right? The Packers defense is already banged up with Jair out. Let's just remove 2 more defensive backs out of that room, right? Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, they're 2 rookies from this year. Something's got to change. And if they're without Bullard, Williams, Jair, I think they have to sign someone. I honestly think they have to sign a veteran into that room, because clearly they don't trust their young guys. Kalen King gets no snaps. Oladapo gets no snaps. So they're probably going to have to sign a veteran if those guys are all out next week. But I appreciate you guys coming by to the video. It's unfortunate that I do come on here and have to talk about the refs, because I don't want to. Like, I really don't. And I very rarely have done that. There's like a couple other times, the Fail Mary against Seattle's one of them, clearly. But it was very bad. It was very bad refereeing, and it's kind of been a running theme around the NFL this year, and it's unfortunate because it's just a poor product to watch. So hopefully that doesn't continue. But I appreciate you guys coming by to the video. If you did enjoy it, leave a like down below. At the end of the day, the Packers are still a 9-4 football team, and their 4 losses are against all teams with better records than them. But if they want to have a chance at winning another Super Bowl, they got to be the best teams, and they have yet to do so this year. So there is cause for concern, but they're still a 9-4 football team. On to next week, on to Seattle, then the Saints after that on Monday night. I appreciate you guys coming by. I'll catch you on the next one, and as always,